What's going on, guys? Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you a ridiculously random, out-of-schedule upload because, I had the day off of work, and I really didn't have anything else to do, so I was like, you know what? Before things pick up tonight, I might as well just give you guys a very random upload with a very cool idea given to me by Ernesto B, so shoutouts to him, and that is a deck centered around Mega Rayquaza-EX. And before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you guys liked this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, and click that subscribe button. Really helps us out a lot and lets us do more cool stuff for you guys. And as for the question of the day, now, I've said over and over that Mega Rayquaza is probably my favorite deck of all time. It's just so much fun to use. I love the ability to hit for 240 damage first turn and pretty consistently. However, this Mega Rayquaza is the one that was released side by side with it in Roaring Skies. Well, I guess the other one was the Emerald Break one was technically released in either way, this Mega Rayquaza was released alongside the Emerald Break one in Roaring Skies, and I've honestly just been underwhelmed by it from the very beginning. I've never done a deck list with it. I've always preferred the other Mega Rayquaza. However, when Ernesto suggested this, I was like, you know what? I might as well give this thing a shot, because especially in the current format, the types that Delta Wild help out with, Grass, Fire, and Water, are pretty omnipresent. Like, they're almost everywhere. Like Decidueye for Grass, Volcanion with Fire and Water, and then frickin' Quad Lapras. I hate that thing. And then Quad Lapras with the Water, and then to a lesser extent like Raikou with the Lightning, but I really don't see that at all. But either way, this Mega Rayquaza is very underrated and kind of deservedly so in my opinion, but still, being able to hit for 300 damage is absolutely absurd. And my question of the day, I'm finally getting to it, is there a scenario where a Pokemon can survive a Dragon's Ascent? Now, I don't mean like Giratina being immune to Mega attacks from Mega Pokemon, and I'll be honest, if you use this deck, don't try to attack a Giratina with the Mega Rayquaza, because then you'll just feel stupid, and I definitely never ever did that. I don't constantly forget that Giratina has the ability to be immune to Mega attacks, and okay, in case you can't tell, complete sarcasm, I constantly forget that Giratina has that ability, so it's just kind of a, welp, I can't do anything now. But is there a scenario where a Pokemon gets damaged by Dragon Ascent, and without like Focus Sash or anything like that, is there a Pokemon that can live from Dragon's Ascent? Now, off the top of my head, I really can't think of anything necessarily that would be able to live a Dragon's Ascent, because in general, I feel like the highest HP is 290 from a Fighting Fury belted Wailord. But other than that, I don't know if there's a Pokemon like if you can reduce damage during your opponent's next turn or something like that. So I really have, I can't think of a scenario which a Pokemon would be able to take a full force Dragon's Ascent and survive. So if you guys are able to come up with something, let me know in the comment section down below. I'm actually very curious to see what you guys can think of, and if there even is a situation where a Pokemon can survive a Dragon's Ascent. But anyway, on to the deck. Like I said, centered around Mega Rayquaza, just evolving and then trying to repeatedly Dragon's Ascent for 300 damage, because once this thing gets set up, it's very reminiscent of like Primal Groudon, in that you'll just be able to, okay, knockout, 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 game. Now, this isn't as good as Primal Groudon Wobbuffet, but this is still a very cool deck that you can run that actually has some decent success. The Pokemon that I'm pairing it with is Reshiram, because in case you didn't notice, Mega Rayquaza requires 5 energy to be able to Dragon's Ascent. That is unreasonable to just manually attach, and in fact, in a lot of cases, it's even potentially unreasonable to try to Mega Turbo up to 5 just straight on its own. However, Reshiram pairs perfectly with it because of the Turbo Blaze ability. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, you may attach a Fire Energy from your hand to one of your Dragon Pokemon. Well, what does Rayquaza require the most of? Fire Energy. Perfect. Instant synergy right there. And then as for the Baby Rayquaza, we're running this one. This is the exact same one as the Dragon Rayquaza EX from from Roaring Skies. Wow, I can never remember that set name for some reason. I remember it after going but I cannot remember it just off the top of my head. And we have to run a Dragon Rayquaza-EX because, in case you didn't notice from Turbo Blaze, you can attach Fire Energy to one of your Dragon Pokemon. If you use the normal Rayquaza-EX, you're unable to do that. You're unable to attach the energy from Reshiram, and that actually hurts quite a bit. Now, this Rayquaza is the one I want to use. I think there are maybe... There's another one. No, that's a normal. Trying to find... Okay, I guess there isn't another dragon one. But either way, both of these dragon Rayquazas are perfect for this deck. Because Dragon Strike, you're potentially able to hit for 130 even if you go second by getting double Turbo Blaze and then attaching a double dragon from your hand onto it. And hitting for 130 on turn 1 is actually pretty nice. And then this Rayquaza also has 180 HP, so nice and a little extra bulky. But yeah, this is the Rayquaza that you want to run, just because Dragon Strike, you're able to hit for a very nice amount of damage turn 1 in some situations. And 130 is actually a magic number, so even better. So yeah, that is the core of the deck. You have the Reshirams and the Rayquazas. We are combining the Reshirams with Hydreigon-EX because of the Dragon Road ability. If there's any Stadium in play, the retreat cost of each of your Dragon Pokemon is 2 less. This gives free retreat to Rayquaza, Mega Rayquaza, and Reshiram. This is especially important because in a lot of cases, you will be Turbo Blazing. You'll want to switch into another Reshiram, Turbo Blaze again, and then use a switching card to go back into Rayquaza. And you don't want to have to pay the retreat cost of Reshiram because that's just too much. 2 energy would mean that you'd have to like discard a double dragon or Turbo Blaze onto it and attach, which would be a lot of wasted resources. So Hydreigon's Dragon Road gives this thing free retreat, which is really, really nice. And to a lesser extent, Mega Rayquaza, but hey, having free retreat on something is never a bad thing. Also, I'd like to point out that Mega Rayquaza has 230 HP. I know I'm going to say that it has 220 just because I just, for whatever reason, well, actually, no, I know exactly the reason. I have it in my mind that Mega Rayquaza has 210 HP from the Emerald Break one. So if I say that Mega Rayquaza has 220 HP during the live, I apologize. I know I'm going to do it because in testing with this deck, I constantly thought that I would be knocked out in certain situations, then I survived with 10 HP. So that's my bad, just me being used to the other Mega Rayquaza. And then finally, for the rest of the Pokemon, 3 Shaymin just for draw sport. We have Sky Field, so we can run more Shaymin, and then also Hoopa to be able to get out our Rayquazas, Mega Rayquazas, Hydreigons, Shaymins, all that good stuff. So Hoopa is especially powerful in this deck because we have so much of the strategy relying on EXs, and we're going to be running Sky Field anyway, so our bench spots aren't necessarily at a premium. As for the items, running a heavier line of switch cards, running 1 Escape Rope and 2 Switch. I usually just like to run 1-1. However, in this deck, we have enough necessity for switching with Turbo Blaze, like Reshiram manually retreat into another Reshiram, or use a Switch or Escape Rope into another one, be able to Turbo Blaze again, then manually attach a Double Dragon from your hand, and then all of a sudden we have a 4 energy Rayquaza in 1 turn, thanks to the free retreat provided by Hydreigon, then also the switching cards. So the switching cards are also super important to the strategy, which is why I'm running a heavy line of those. 4 Mega Turbo, because the downside to Dragon's Ascent is discard 2 energy attached to this Pokemon. Now, that's actually not bad at all. I mean, discarding 2 energy for 300, I mean, we have Solgaleo now, which does 230, and you discard all energy from it. However, Dragon's Ascent, definitely a lot more expensive and a lot less conducive to having like Bronzong be able to just Metal Links right onto it, switch it to the bench with Ultra Road, all that stuff. However, Dragon's Ascent 300 and only discard 2, that's pretty easy to work around and pretty easy to work with. But to help that out, running 4 Mega Turbo, because once we discard the energy, just throw them right back on with Mega Turbo, and then manually attach and boom, you have a Dragon's Ascent ready. 1 Super Rod in case we have to like discard a bunch of our Mega Rays early, or we want draw support later in the game after our opponent counters our Sky Field and we discard Shaymin and Hoopa. Just Super Rod keeps us from overextending too much. 4 Trainers Mail just help with consistency, help us get turn 2 Dragon's Ascent or turn 1 Dragon Strikes rather consistently. 4 Ultra Ball guaranteed, get us what we want when we want. Also throw Fire Energy into the discard pile for Mega Turbos. 4 VI Seeker, let us reuse all of our supporters. And then as for these supporters, it's kind of peculiar, the line of supporters that I'm running, because, I mean, you have my standard 4-2 and Sycamore. I ended up just going with 1 Lysandre and 1 Hex Maniac, because in this deck with Lysandre, you're going to be able to one-shot whatever is in front of you. I mean, okay, except for Giratina, but that's why we have the Hex Maniac. Well, there, I just said why we have Hex Maniac, because, well, first of all, item lock is so prevalent, and also this way we don't just, like, auto-lose to Giratina, but only 1 Lysandre, because we really don't have to work around with, like, magic numbers or anything, or being like, well, I can't KO this, but I can KO this, or I want to KO the damaged Pokemon. With Mega Rayquaza, there's not going to be many damaged Pokemon to speak of on the board. If they get hit by a Dragon's Ascent, they're dead. There's no two ways about it. So Lysandre isn't super necessary. It's nice. It's a fantastic card. And a super, super necessary card in every single deck. However, it's not as necessary because you really don't have to work around with, like, taking knockouts on damaged Pokemon very often or anything like that. 3 Rayquaza Spirit Links to help out with our Mega Rayquaza. And then as for the energy, 4 Double Dragon, absolute max number to take care of that nasty lightning, that random lightning retreat cost in Mega Rayquaza's attack cost. And then 7 of the fire energy to be able to Turbo Blaze, Mega Turbo, all that good stuff. So, yeah, that's a deck. Also, by the way, you can potentially attack with Hydreigon. Shred's not one attack that you want to use very often. However, against, like, Carbink or something like that, you have that ability. Or actually, you know what? You really don't need to attack with Hydreigon that much because, I mean, if your opponent has a Carbink up, Reshiram's Brightwing knocks them out in 1 hit. If your opponent has Jolteon, well, Mega Rayquaza one-shots that thing. If your opponent has, I don't even know what other locks there would be, but either way, I mean, you have ways around everything, so you really don't need to use Shred. However, it is a decent last-second ability to have. And, we got logged out, so, you know what? I'm done rambling. I'm just going to pause this video, log back in, and go ahead and try to find a match with this deck. Alright, we found one against Red You Mad with a... Oh, could this be a Decidueye Espeon deck? That'd be really, really cool, and that's a deck that I really enjoy playing, and I'm probably going to put out relatively soonly here. A little bit of spoilers in that regard. But either way, we get to start off with a pretty nice hand, actually. And we even get a Mulligan card, so let's see what we will get. I mean, not see what we'll get, but see what my opponent is running. And it's very obviously Decidueye, but I mean, I'm almost positive that it's Espeon GX as well as Decidueye, but I could be wrong. However, all the types point right to that, so who knows? We're just waiting on my opponent to put a Pokemon down, so we will see what they start with. If I can get a Rayquaza powered up turn 1, I can actually Dragon Strike for 130, which can take a knockout in some cases, so this will be, honestly, I mean, I'm just rambling at this point, trying to talk until I get going. And okay, we see the Eevee. Yep, this is a Espeon GX Decidueye deck, which is really kind of cool because Mega Rayquaza can one-shot every single one of them. So I'm pretty excited for this because once my opponent gets set up, he will have trouble one-shotting my Rayquaza as long as I don't, like, let it take a hit from a powered-up Espeon GX with Psychic, because Psychic will do a crap ton of damage if I'm fully powered up. I think it'll do like 210 if I have all 5 energies on me. So I have to be smart. My opponent plays down another Eevee and then just plays a Lugia and passes. So my opponent clearly doesn't have anything. What I'm going to do is get rid of a Fire Energy and then... let's just get rid of another Mega Turbo. Let's get rid of a Mega Turbo. That way, whoops, dropped something. That way, once I, because I mean, I'm going to be Sycamoring this turn anyway. So let's go ahead and grab just a Rayquaza and a Shaymin. I want to save that last spot on my bench for another Reshiram so that I can potentially double Turbo Blaze and then switch into my Rayquaza to be able to one-shot this Eevee. So let's see what I get. I get nothing, so I'm just going to hold on to that Shaymin for 4 more cards, see what I can get. I get an Ultra... Okay, I get some other good stuff. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to get rid of 2 Mega Turbos turn 1, which hopefully won't matter too much. But it's what I'm going to go with. I get a Reshiram, I get a Stadium, and this is beautiful. All I need to do is draw into a Double Dragon and a Switch or an Escape Rope with my Sycamore to be able to knock out this Eevee or Lugia, or hit Lugia for some damage. And unfortunately, I hit neither, so I am just going to Spirit Link up my Dragon Rayquaza on the bench and end my turn right there. On the bright side, I will be able to use my Mega Turbo next turn when I Mega Evolve. My opponent's going to put my field down to just 5. Well, I have a Sky Field in play, so it doesn't matter. And also, I really just want to have a Stadium in play so that my Dragon Road ability can take effect. My opponent is going to make the smart play. Lysandre up the Hoopa. And at this point, okay, I draw into the Double Dragon. This means I'm going to be able to get an attack off this turn because I will go ahead and evolve into Mega Rayquaza, Mega Turbo, and all I need to do is just draw into my Escape Rope or one of my 2 switches, which really should not be that hard. And there we go. I just draw directly into the switch. I'm going to switch into my Reshiram, actually, because my Reshiram has Free Retreat. I can Ultra Ball. Do I want to Ultra Ball? Yeah, let's go ahead and Ultra Ball. Get rid of the Trainer's Mail and the Fire Energy, but I want to attach the Fire Energy. How many VS Seekers have I gone through? 0. So I'm going to discard the VS Seeker. Grab another Rayquaza so I can start getting this baby powered up. Play that onto my bench, attach the Rayquaza Spirit Link, go ahead and Turbo Blaze, get the energy onto my Mega Rayquaza. I mean, I had the Rayquaza Spirit Link, but I really don't need to power this thing up just yet. I'm going to load a bunch of energy onto my Mega Rayquaza, because even though Lugia will be able to hit me harder, he won't be able to hit me for enough damage to knock me out to where I wouldn't be able to just respond immediately with a return KO. So this way, I still just need 1 energy attachment to be able to attack next turn. And yeah, I'm in a very, very, very good position right now. I mean, I killed about 5 EVs, 5 or 6 with that Dragon's Ascent. But I mean, I'm honestly just in a very good position overall. If my opponent tries to start attacking with Decidueye, my Delta Wild Ancient Trait will be able to just be like, yeah, you're doing 20 less damage, so that's fine with me. My opponent is going to bring up the Lugia, so if he attaches a DCE, he will be able to hit me for 120 damage. However, I will be able to immediately respond with a knockout, and especially because my opponent doesn't get rid of my hand. So overall, I could not be in much better of a spot. In fact, what I can even do is Escape Rope into my Reshiram, Turbo Blaze onto my Mega Rayquaza, then manually attach the Double Dragon onto my other Rayquaza or onto my Mega Rayquaza. It really doesn't matter all that much. But my opponent is finally getting stuff going off of the top deck from that Sycamore. And, alright, just concedes. Maybe their only Shaymin were prized or something like that. But I mean, either way, I think I had a good enough setup to where I would have been able to win regardless of what my opponent was necessarily able to do or able to get set up. I mean, once you get a Mega Rayquaza setup and you get kind of the combo there with the Hydreigon, the Stadium in play, the Reshiram being able to Turbo Blaze, and then you don't have to discard all your Mega Turbos turn 1. That's a lot. That's very, very helpful. So, yeah, that was a quick first match, but we still got a Dragon Ascent off. Let's go ahead and try to find another one with this deck. Alrighty, we found another one against Tuppix with a very obviously Volcanion EX deck. So this will actually be pretty awesome because I will have the resistance through my Delta Wild trait, and also I'll be able to just continually one-shot the Volcanions and whatnot. I do, unfortunately, Mulligan, but my opponent does as well. I mean, we just see a bunch of cards that are very indicative of a Volcanion deck, so I mean, I'm really not worried at all. We do, okay, thank the Lord we don't start off with, like, Hoopa Mega Rayquaza or something like that. At least I'll be able to take advantage of the Hoopa. And I'll be able to get a Spirit Link and a Double Dragon on my baby Rayquaza, on my little baby Rayquaza-EX first turn. And the cool thing also is I can Dragon Strike and knock out a non-Fighting Fury belted Volcanion. So I mean, this baby Rayquaza isn't even that horrible. Because, I mean, 130 is still pretty nice. And I even draw into a Mega Rayquaza, which kind of wish I draw into that later. But you know what? That's fine. Let's go ahead and Hoopa, grab Rayquaza, Shaymin, and Hydreigon. That way I can get free retreat. If I get a Stadium into play, that way I can retreat into a Reshiram, take advantage of Turbo Blaze. Let's Trainers Mail, see what we can get. Get a Sycamore. Do I want to grab that or do I just want to rely on Shaymin? I think the safer play is just go ahead and grab the Sycamore. Yeah, I'll be getting rid of a Mega Rayquaza and a Super Rod, but, I mean, I still have 2 other Mega Rayquazas, and I draw an Ultra Ball, so this is actually really, really nice. Because what I can do is Ultra Ball, get rid of the Professor Sycamore and the Mega Ray to grab a Reshiram. Then I can Super Rod the Mega Ray back into my deck, which I'm going to do right now. And then I'll Sycamore, get rid of the Fire Energy, have that available to Mega Turbo next turn. And there we go. We're in a good position. I even draw a Sky Field that I can use next turn. Unfortunately, I don't draw into a Mega Ray or some way of not having to discard 2 Mega Turbos. So that's a little bit unfortunate right there. I am just going to Turbo Blaze onto my Rayquaza with the Double Dragon Energy and pass my opponent. I mean, he has to pull off some pretty intense stuff in order to be able to knock me out turn 1. In fact, actually, I'm not sure if there is a way, but if there is, I mean, my opponent pulls it off, I'll just tip my hat to him because there's nothing I can do there. We do see the Fighting Fury Belt. Okay, why is every Volcanion deck running Salamence now? I mean, it makes sense and it's a good card, but this is going to be frustrating in this matchup. Oh boy. So Salamence will be able to one-shot my Mega Rayquazas, which means that I just need to go ahead and try to Lysandre that thing out before it takes me out. On the bright side, we did see that my opponent has Scorched Earth. And if I can manage to get rid of the Shaymin and the Hoopa off my bench, then Salamence will only be able to hit for 160, which, while still, that's a very high amount of damage for 3 energy. That's not a one-shot, and then I'll just be able to one-shot it right back with Dragon's Ascent. My opponent is apparently having a very good first turn. I mean, he has got the Hoopa for the Volcanions and a Shaymin. He has a Salamence with a Fighting Fury Belt on. I mean, a cool thing is Fighting Fury Belt isn't going to help my opponent at all because Dragon's Ascent will knock out literally everything in one shot. Even, actually, is there... Okay, I'm trying to think of if there is a Pokemon in the game, if there's some situation that a Pokemon would be able to survive a Dragon's Ascent. Because right now, I'm thinking that the... I mean, I tried to think about this for the question of the day, but I don't know. I mean, I thought about it, couldn't think of anything then. I still can't think of anything now. But I mean, Fighting Fury Belted Wailord is the highest HP in the whole game, 290 HP. However, Dragon's Ascent still one-shots that thing. I honestly cannot think if there's anything that survives. But yeah, again, you guys heard me ramble about this before. I'm sorry. It's bugging me that I can't think of anything, and I can't give you a definitive answer. But either way, I mean, we do see my opponent is just, wow. 3 Volcanions, a Salamence, a baby Volcanion active. That's just a perfect setup. My opponent even, oh, that's annoying, even Fighting Fury Belts up his Volcanion. That way I can't Dragon Strike for the one-hit knockout. So I'll probably just have to have another Reshiram take a hit this coming turn. If I can draw into a Mega Rayquaza, if I can top deck a Mega Ray, that would be absolutely gorgeous. Unfortunately, I do not, and I get a Double Dragon, which, I mean, it's not bad. I am going to go ahead and just, I think... Do I want to Double Dragon up that guy, or do I want to just put another Double Dragon? I think it's best to spread around my resources at this point. I'm going to have to draw into a Switch, a Mega Ray, and a Fire Energy in order to pull this off. Looks like I do not, so bit unfortunate right there. I'm going to Trainer's Mail, get the other Mega Turbo. I mean, I'm honestly crossing my fingers at this point that I can draw into my Mega Rayquaza so I can effectively use Mega Turbo. But, I mean, for this turn, just going to pass once again. Turbo Blaze, set up, I think, yeah, let's just set up this Rayquaza to be able to Dragon's Ascent next turn. And, unfortunately, if I if I'm able to get, if I have to Sycamore away the rest of my hand, not only will I be getting rid of a bunch more resources, but I'll be getting rid of another Mega Turbo. So I'll be getting rid of 3. And yeah, my opponent does just get rid of that. So let's get rid of the Sycamore, the Sky Field, and the VS Seeker. And then this actually helps out a ton, because now Salamence will only be able to hit for 160. Which, yeah, I mean, that's beautiful. Not going to be able to take a one-shot. My opponent would even have to Power Heater for, what is that, 9? He would have to have a triple Steam Up Power Heater in order to be able to knock me out. No, double Steam Up with a Fighting Fury Belted Power Heater. There we go. Unfortunately, my opponent is able to get set up even more. Top deck Hydreigon, that's not good. So I'm going to have to get rid of yet another Mega Turbo. And at this point, I don't need my Sky Fields anymore. And there we go. There's a Mega Rayquaza and my last Mega Turbo. So at least I'm going to be able to get something going. Let's what am I trying to say? Let's Spirit Link up that Rayquaza, that little Rayquaza on the bench. Switch into my Mega Ray. Because I don't have a Sky Field in play, I can't take advantage of Dragon Road. And then let's go ahead and Mega Turbo just so I have another energy. And I'll be able to Dragon Ascent 2 turns in a row. Are able to take a quick prize on that Volcanion. Unfortunately, we're going to be playing an odd prize game because my opponent is probably just going to put a bunch of EXs up at this point. But I might as well just take that prize that's given to me. I can Lysandre up that Salamence next turn if I'm able to draw into it. I can simply just knock out the Volcanion. And the Volcanion, even with a triple Steam Up, would not be able to knock me out because of my Delta Wild ability. And we see the baby Volcanion come down. So that is actually great for me, because now I can play a better prize game, be able to Dragon Strike that thing for a knockout, and I'm in a beautiful position right now. Honestly, like, I was discounting how good the Delta Wild Ancient trait was, but it's really gonna come through for me in this match. My opponent is able to get an energy on the Volcanion, but unfortunately, like I said, even with a triple Steam Up, he would have only been able to do 200 damage. I would have been able to knock out that Volcanion EX while getting another Mega Rayquaza set up in the background. And yeah, at that point, I don't think my opponent even would have been able to knock out that second Mega Ray, because one Mega Ray is difficult, especially if you have a type that is nerfed a little bit by the Delta Wild Ancient trait. And then even so, if Mega Rayquaza with 220 HP is very, very bulky, and then Dragon's Ascent, if I'm able to stream those, there's nothing my opponent could do. So it was very, very cool match. I'm sorry that this live is going to be a little bit shorter, but this was literally just a, you know what, I got nothing to do. I just feel like doing a live today with a cool deck that was suggested to me. So thank you again, Ernesto, for pointing this out to me. And yeah, that's a deck, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.